What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hashtag motivated Mondays. Hashtag get money Mondays. Hashtag let's be blessed Mondays. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope everybody have a productive week. You know what it is, your boy, old boy, checking in from Old Boy's Corner. Make sure you share, like, subscribe, comment on the video down below. Show love. It's free. It's for the free 99. Show love. Showing love costs you nothing, man. Hit that like button. And I would do the same for you as well. Once again, hashtag motivated Mondays, man. Let's get to it. I know a lot of us get it every day, but it's just something about a Monday that I know some of us might not even like, but it's just something about a Monday. So hope everybody's staying positive, man, understanding how important it is to, once again, to check on your mental. Check on your mental, man. Make sure you're mentally strong just as much as you're physically strong. And most of all, making sure you're spiritually covered as well. With whatever you believe in. You may not believe in the same thing. However, it's important to believe in something. You know what I'm talking about? It's important to believe in something. So we're gonna cover this case, 4 adults charged in unaliving of a 3-year-old boy. I just don't know what's going on in this world, man. The people and I know a lot of the stuff been going on, so I hate to get caught up in that cliche. It's just the power of the internet now. And also, people are speaking up more on things than what they have in the past. And I think a lot of it has to do with awareness. People raising that awareness. And I wish that the awareness could come before, things go bad with these kids. However, sometimes what happened to these kids actually help another child. What happened to some of these adults, help another adult. And once again, if I had my way, so many things wouldn't happen. However, I'm not in control. So that's what we're doing here. We're gonna start off with some little music. You know what I'm talking about? Before we get to it. Nothing crazy. Just before we get to it. And once again, the Fair Use Act is in full effect. I do not own the rights to this content. This content is actually just to cover a story and also for educational and entertainment purposes only. I do not own the rights to any of this content. Content disclaimer, I do not own the rights to any of this content. Fair use is in effect. Let's go. Now this girl here hard, man. I don't know if y'all done heard her yet. She hard.
Beef for better. Queen of the syrup.
Hey, turn that shit up, man.
Hey, what's
Down to Mississippi for this one. Real for real.
Hey, hold on. I might just flash out on my pappy for that whole shit that he did. How you fucking on my mama, but couldn't take care of your kids? What's the point of calling you daddy when you never was a father? And what's the point of reaching out when a nigga ain't ever even bothered? So what's the point of me talking? I picked the same kind of BD. What's the point of him being 32, fucking me at 17? But what's the point of being sad? They just gon' label you as fast, cause you know dope boys not pedophiles long as they get in the bag. So what's the point of being mad? You better off not giving a fuck. They be screaming they hate P. Diddy, but still love they uncles. What's the point of keeping secret if he a threat to all the nieces? And why y'all hurting all the angels so you can protect all the demons? What's the point of even lying? You get caught up every time. What's the point point of your relationship if y'all ass ain't even trying? How we glorifying murder, then we be shocked when niggas die? Like, what's the point? Are we down with catching bodies or we not? Like, what's the point of getting it right when that shit still gonna go left? What's the point of having fam if you can't ask them for help? What's the point of joining the game if you still feel by yourself? What's going on in the hood? These niggas that started doing meth. What's the point, nigga? You used to be a boss, now you a junkie, nigga. You used to bob a jump shot, didn't make no points, nigga. So what's the point, nigga? Nigga, what's the point? At the point of no return, I need a man till I lunch. What's the point of selling dope if you ain't gon' save the money? What's the point of having a baby to keep a nigga? You a dummy. What's the point of even asking? No, you can't get nothing from me. What's the point of baby wife in case a bomb try to touch me? Hey, I'm going back in. What's the point of tomorrow when I'm right here today? And what's the point of me having if I can't have it my way? Say, what's the point of letting them hate? Cause they gon' do it anyway. But what's the point of all these questions? Sound like you investigate. I got some heavy on my neck, but today a light day. I'm heating up in this bitch. I might just be a microwave. I just beat up another bitch. I'm starting to feel like Johnny Cage. What's the point of hitting my phone if you ain't gon' get an answer? What's the point of playing real when we all know you an answer? And what's the point of having a pastor if he lying more than us? And what's the point of enemies when it's your friends you can't trust? So what's the point, bitch? Stop blaming everybody for your dumb shit. Take some accountability for all your nonsense. But that's just the point, shit. Bitches don't make no sense. Bitches ain't get no dollars. Bitches ain't get no sense. What's the point, bitch? Tell me what's the point? Hey, be for better, queen of the seal. Hey, yeah, there goes. Hey, what's the point, bitch? Yeah.
And she fire.
I don't even know.
Turn that shit up, man.
I don't even know what I might do. Hold up. I might just flash out on my pappy for that whole shit that he did. How you fucking on my mama but couldn't take care of your kids? What's the point of calling you daddy when you never was a father? And what's the point of reaching out when a nigga ain't never even bothered? But what's the point of me talking? I picked the same kind of BD. But what's the point of him being 32 fucking me at 17? What's the point of being mad? They just gon' label you as fast. Cause you know dope boys not pedophiles long as they get a bag. So what's the point of being sad? You better off not giving a fuck. They be screaming they hate P. Diddy, but still love they uncles. What's the point of keeping secret? If he a threat to all the nieces? And why y'all hurting all the angels so you can protect all the demons? What's the point of even lying? You get caught up every time. What's the point of your relationship if y'all ass ain't even trying? How we glorifying murder, then we be shocked when niggas die? Like, what's the point? Are we down with catching bodies or we not? What's the point with getting it right when that shit still gon' go left? What's the point of having fam if you can't ask them for help? What's the point of
Man, shout out to B Better, man. Shout out to B for Better. Out of the silk. She on fire. She on fire. Once again, let's get to the content, man. Actually, I gotta change. Actually, the little boy was only 3 years old. I'll fix that. But man, once again, man, I hate that kids have to go through this, man. But obviously, like, it's something that we're not in control of. You know, you see something, say something. You see something, do something. You know, shit's really bad out here, man. People shit's just hard to explain, man. Let's run this content. Once again, this content is for educational purposes only and entertainment purposes only. And fair use is in full effect. Let's go.
In my head for the rest of my life.
In a heart-wrenching sentencing, 4 people were held accountable for the tragic death of a 3-year-old boy just killed in a senseless act of gun violence. We're going to break down the sentencing as we take you inside the courtroom where this little boy's family shared their pain and their plea for justice.
Yeah, the title's crazy on this one, Miss Parker. Like I said, so many stories, man. You know, once again, the ideal is to bring awareness. And to keep talking about it. Once again, you see something, say something. and once again do something. It's some sick people out here. People like to say the world is a bad place. The world not doing it. It's the people in it. Let's go.
This while the defendants learn their fates. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 4 people were sentenced Tuesday in connection with the tragic shooting death of a little 3-year-old boy, Luis Diaz. He was killed in Cleveland, Ohio. And when I say that this is a terrible tragedy, what I mean by that is this should have never, ever happened. The emotional sentencing took place before the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court. Judge Shannon Gallagher handed down the sentences for each defendant involved in the September 2023 shooting death of this toddler. Now, this sequence of events unfolded on September 28th, 2023, when prosecutors say that an argument broke out between one of the defendants, Catherine Treadway, and her neighbor, and this happened at a duplex in Cleveland. According to prosecutors, the argument escalated, prompted Treadway to then call her boyfriend, co-defendant, now 35-year-old Juan Davis, for help. And Treadway also moved her car out of the driveway, which is interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. But according to investigators, this neighbor, who WKYC reports was Luis's stepdad, was standing outside a car where Luis Diaz's mom was sitting. She was in the front seat. Luis was in the back with his 11-month-old brother. And authorities say his mom had actually been a witness to a crime that allegedly was committed by Davis involving Treadway. So you can kind of see the apparent connections here. And in a press release from the state, prosecutors say that Treadway had told Davis that she wouldn't be showing up at court to testify against him in the domestic violence and aggravated burglary case. So that left Luis's mom as the only witness. Now, Davis, along with 30-year-old Devontae Parker and 18-year-old Jaden Sorensen, who was just 16 at the time, they arrive at this street near the duplex. And according to prosecutors, Parker, who is armed with a handgun, and Sorensen, wielding a rifle, ran toward the back of a nearby house. And without warning, they opened fire, shooting multiple rounds towards the victim's car across the street. And I think you can guess what happened. One of those bullets hit 3-year-old Luis, who was still strapped into his car seat. And when I say
strapped in his car seat, doing what a kid's supposed to be doing. Once again, man, these bullets don't have any names on them, man. Hit you. I don't condone violence, but it is what it is. Sometimes it's necessary. However, if you're going to do it, hit your target, man. Bullets don't have any names on it. Now you got a 3-year-old baby whose life missing because of
it. When I say tragedy, when I say this should not have happened, now you get what I'm saying about this. Now you understand it. Prosecutors say Davis, Parker, Sorensen, they sped off, left this little boy critically injured. Treadway told the media she tried to do CPR on little Luis, but he was rushed to the hospital and later died from his injuries. Now, his mom, brother, they were not hurt, but the stepdad was shot in the foot. Luis was hit in the back while he was still strapped to that car seat. According to a GoFundMe page, Luis was just ready to head out for a day to visit his grandpa when this shooting happened and he was killed. In a statement, the county prosecutor, Michael C. O'Malley, said 3-year-old Luis Diaz died because these 4 defendants are simply idiots. The issues between Catherine Treadway and Juan Davis led those 4 to shoot up a car and kill a child. Simply outrageous. There is a lot that we got to break down with this. And for that, I want to bring on a special guest. We're joined right now by Ohio prosecutor and former Deputy Attorney General Mark Weaver. Thank you so much for coming on, Mark. We really appreciate it.
Yes, Jesse, a very sad case. And as your viewers have become accustomed, that was an outstanding summary of a very complex and convoluted set of facts.
Talk to me. I mean, you've probably dealt with the worst of the worst. What are your thoughts on this kind of case? You know, we talk about the killings of children all the time, parents, step-parents, accidents. But this is a different level of senselessness. I mean, the judge used the word idiots for a reason here.
Yeah, this hit me particularly hard as a father and now as a grandfather. Every time I see a child victim, you can't help but putting your loved one in their place. I've worked on death penalty cases, numerous child rape cases, all sorts of heinous crimes. But this one was particularly evil, not just because of the victim. It's such a tragic little Luis dying from this, but for what was happening. This was essentially almost a recklessly called out hit on a witness in another case. And these 4 defendants are going away for a long time. 3 of whom went to trial, one of whom, the woman in this case, actually pled guilty. They all deserve a long time in prison for what they did in this tragic case.
We are going to go through what the sentences were for each of them, what the charges were. Got to say something, by the way, is this story and most of the stories on Sidebar show, the world can be something, to say the least, and it's scary thinking about how to protect yourself. And we always try to partner with companies that can maybe offer you some level of protection. I'll tell you what, now we have our sponsor, Delete Me. So did you know that your personal data is being harvested and sold online by data brokers? Yeah, anyone can buy your personal information. When that happens, you're at risk for a whole host of things: identity theft, phishing scams, potential stalking. But Delete Me helps keep your personal information private. I mean, they found dozens of data brokers with my information. They had to remove it from multiple listings. And by the way, Delete Me will keep monitoring those sites for you so your information doesn't find its way back on there after the first removal. And using Delete Me has also given me peace of mind about my family too, because if someone buys your data via a data broker, they can see information about your relatives too. So right now you can get 20% off Delete Me and protect your personal data when you go to joindeleteme.com/sidebar and use promo code sidebar at checkout. Is this a complicated case though, when you have multiple defendants, different roles, a shooting like this? I mean, talk to me about any complications there might be. And also, what is some of the strongest evidence in a case like this?
Yeah, I know Prosecutor O'Malley. So he did a wonderful job charging this. He gave several different options for the jury, and in this case, the judge, to be able to bring accountability for little Luis, who was killed, and then the man who was shot in the foot. By bringing multiple different levels of charges, we call the lower charges lesser included offenses. Sometimes jury won't find the right state of mind to be able to prove aggravated murder or murder. They might prefer involuntary manslaughter or felonious assault in the example of the being shot in the foot. Prosecutor O'Malley not only brought all those charges that I just mentioned, but also brought, Ohio law has a gun spec, a 3-year gun spec. When you commit a felony with a weapon, that is 3 years. It always gets tacked on top of whatever the penalty is. So by giving the jury, in the case of the 3 defendants who went to trial, and the judge who sentenced all 4 of the defendants, these different options, that's why we saw such tough sentences as a result.
Let's talk about that, because after what was a lengthy and emotional trial, Judge Gallagher sentenced the 4 defendants involved, and the sentencing was split into 2 hearings. So there was one for Juan Davis and Devontae Parker, and the other one was for Catherine Treadway and Jaden Sorensen. So let's talk about 35-year-old Juan Davis. He was a pivotal figure in the death of this young boy. Prosecutors say Davis was the one who drove the group to the scene, helped instigate this violent altercation, and after having been in contact with Treadway because of this argument, right? So during an interview with detectives after the shooting, Davis told them that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He said he drove 2 people. He claimed he didn't know who they were, drove them to the scene, didn't know what they were going to do. He told investigators he didn't see guns in their possession, which would be, unlikely.
Look at that. Everybody want to be gangster until it's time to stand in front of that judge. Now all of a sudden you don't know nothing. Yeah, right.
Considering Sorensen was reportedly armed with an AR-15. And get this, at the time of that shooting, Davis had a no contact order with Treadway, who was apparently pregnant with his 17th child. 17th child, that's according to police. He was also wearing an ankle monitor from a prior offense. And in the end, he was found guilty of multiple charges: 2 counts of murder, 6 counts of felonious assault, 3 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, discharge of a firearm on or near prohibited premises, having weapons while under disability, meaning he wasn't allowed to have a gun because of a prior offense. Now, Davis was sentenced to life in prison, but there will be the possibility of parole after 49 years. 30-year-old Devontae Parker was sentenced to the same life sentence, also with the possibility of parole after 49 years, after a jury found him guilty on those same charges. Prosecutors say Parker's role was just as significant. He was armed with a handgun. He joined Sorensen in running toward the house and opening fire. He was actually captured by U.S. Marshals after the shooting. Turns out he was wanted in connection with not only Luis's death, but also the death of a man a few months earlier. Now, Judge Gallagher's words when sentencing these two men, very powerful, highlighting the profound impact of their actions, especially on the victims.
So they just out here slide. Just slide. And in this case, impacted a 3-year-old's life.
Family, and she noted that Luis's life had been stolen forever and that his future was cut short in an instant.
The actions here today have stolen the life of a baby. And it will never leave my mind that that little boy, I will probably picture him in my head for the rest of my life because his life was stolen from him. He's never going to grow up.
All right, Mark, I want to talk to you about this. So Juan Davis, Devontae Parker, both pivotal figures in this case. Talk to me first about the sentence, because Davis would potentially get out when he's 84, Parker not till he's 79. Is that justice? I mean, look, there's a chance whether or not they will actually get out at that time and whether or not they would live long enough to see the possibility of parole. But why not just straight up life in prison, no possibility of parole?
I thought the judge was pretty tough on these defendants. We see judges giving much shorter sentences for murder sometimes, depending on where in the state it happens. By the way, I can't help but stop and just remark upon that one fact that you mentioned, which I had to double check because I didn't believe it. That in fact, Juan Davis admitted this. He had 17 different children. Yeah. I've not seen that before. I've been a prosecutor since 2001, all around the state of Ohio. Death penalty case, child sex case. I've never seen that. That's remarkable. That's not a crime. That's just remarkable. I just really had to double check that. This is not a good person. Juan Davis was essentially the one who caused the crime to occur. Unless Catherine Treadway actually said to him, come here and start shooting up. He's the one who went and got two other people, one of whom was 16, start shooting semi-automatic weapon fire at this car of children and adults, shooting one of the adults and killing one of the children. So the judge certainly could have given a longer sentence, but judges have to presume that their sentences are going to be taken up on appeal. Certainly those that came from a conviction at a trial, there's going to be a long appeal process. Judges often weigh whether or not an appeals court will overturn their sentence if they didn't make the right sentencing findings. And that's why sometimes judges will not give the maximum sentence.
But you agree those were the correct charges, at least for Davis and Parker, right?
Oh, yes. This was.
You hear that? Why it's important to not overcharge, because the time may get overturned. So a lot of times we're like, well, why didn't charge with this? Why didn't charge with that? It's a strategy to actually make the time stick. But let's go.
Was well charged, and a defense lawyer would say it was overcharged. I'm a prosecutor. I wouldn't say it was overcharged. Some of these charges merged, and as a result of the merger, you can only be sentenced on some of them. Right. But I thought that Prosecutor O'Malley did a very good job sentencing charging this case.
Let me ask you this. So according to the court records, there was a jury who found Davis and Parker guilty of most of the charges. But it's our understanding when we're reading the court record, when it comes to Davis's case, the court actually found him guilty on an involuntary manslaughter charge, as well as having weapons while under disability. Parker is also shown as having been found guilty by the court, not the jury, on that weapons under disability charge. That was surprising me. Why do you have that? Would the jury decide some charges, the court decides the others?
Yeah, I looked at the court records as well, and I was a little confused myself. Not my case. I'm reading the same stuff you sure. did in Ohio. Like most states, defendants can opt for a bench trial rather than a jury trial. That could have happened here. My reading of it was only one of these four defendants actually took responsibility ahead of going to a trial, and that was Catherine Treadway in this case, who did evince some small level of remorse that was somewhat credible when she was sentenced. Yeah, we'll talk about her. Yeah. The other ones didn't strike me as being remorseful. One of I think it was Juan Davis said he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. When you show up at 7 p.m. at the Italian restaurant when you were supposed to be at 8 p.m. at the Greek restaurant, that's showing up at the wrong place at the wrong time. This was getting other people to commit heinous violence against innocent people, and you were the one who drove them there and largely spurred them up to do that. That is not being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Is it an advantage for the prosecutors to charge them all and try them all at the same time in one trial? Is that an advantage for the prosecutors?
It typically helps with the economy of the proceedings. Nearly every prosecution office is strained for resources, and going through back-to-back multiple trials on the same set of facts is hard on the witnesses you have to call and your assistant prosecutors. I think for everybody it makes sense. There's always, of course, some concern that one of the defendants' rights will be affected by trying these defendants at the same time. So a prosecutor who wants to preserve those convictions on appeal has to be very careful about whether or not insisting that they all be tried together.
Mark, I want to ask you about the judge here. So Judge Gallagher's comments during the sentencing, they emphasize just the impact on this family, this victim's family. How does a judge's statement during sentencing reflect, the emotional weight of the case, the harm?
There's also another gem they drop. A lot of questions be, just because you're connected to the same crime doesn't mean that you will be tried together. They actually tried co-defendants at different times. It's all up to the prosecutor and what the lawyers want for their for whoever they're covering. I don't even know what they call these idiots. Just got tongue-tied. So that was another jewel there as well.
Done to the victim's family. How important is it for the judge to make that statement?
Under Ohio law, judges are required to make certain statutory findings that the sentence being offered aligns with the purposes and principles of felony sentencing. So every time I have a sentencing hearing as a prosecutor, I expect the judge to tick off those statutory requirements. That's got to be in the record. What is not required by the law is extemporaneously speaking about the impact of this case. I'm so glad that Judge Gallagher did that in this case, because remember, there are victims in that courtroom whose lives will never be the same. In fact, the father of little Luis testified holding a series of photos in a large frame, and how his life has never been the same. And all of us can imagine that's exactly true. His life will never be the same. And so when a judge does that, it's not required by law, but it reminds us that judges are there to follow the law and to do justice. And part of doing justice means showing some compassion for the plight of these victims.
And let's move on to the next one. So we have 31-year-old, and we're going to play some of those statements too, and they're quite something to hear. I want to move on to 31-year-old Catherine Treadway. She too played a different but important role in what happened. And even though she didn't pull the trigger, prosecutors say that she contributed to Luis's death. Nonetheless, she's the cause, because after the argument with her neighbor that afternoon, authorities say she was the one who called Davis and set all this in motion. Now, Treadway entered a guilty plea, and in return, prosecutors dropped some of the charges, including a murder charge. So she pled guilty to 1 count of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of felonious assault, having weapons while under disability, and she was sentenced to 20 to 25 years in prison. Now, Mark, why would prosecutors do that? Why would they drop those charges and her ultimately pleading guilty if, again, she was the catalyst for why all this happened?
Certainly seems like she lit the fuse for this explosion of violence that was going to happen. But for her actions, these things wouldn't have occurred. Now, as a prosecutor, every time I have multiple defendants, I have an obligation to prove every one of them to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And juries are funny. Unless I get all of them unanimously on my side, I could lose the case by acquittal, or I could get a hung jury. So whenever I can get one defendant to turn state's evidence towards the others, it gives me an advantage that I didn't have otherwise. Now, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have to do that. But
there was another gem. Get one of the co-defendants to turn. Normally, whoever talks first, whoever's willing to turn state evidence, that's a jewel. Let's go.
But in a perfect world, the victims may never see justice if there was an acquittal or a hung jury. So I can understand why Prosecutor O'Malley would have arranged this outcome. She's still going to be in prison for quite a long time. If she had a weapon under disability, I didn't see this in the news articles. I presume she's previously a felon. That's typically what weapons under disability means under Ohio law. Either you're impaired, you're drunk, or you have some felony history, which means you're not eligible to be in and around guns.
Interesting. Talk about her sentencing. So you mentioned this before. Prior to her being officially sentenced, she offered an apology to Luis's family, expressing arguably deep remorse for her role in what happened to this young boy. Take a listen.
I would like to apologize to you and say I apologize for the role that I played. And Your Honor, I would like to say to the court, I take full responsibility for the role that I played, and whatever time you give me, I'm going to go down there and make the best of my time.
Now, although the judge recognized that Treadway appears to have this lack of prior criminal history, she also made it clear that without Treadway's involvement, Luis would still be alive.
I will never understand the coldness, the ice in your veins that was needed to put that baby in the car seat, to move your own car out of harm's way. But without your actions, Luis would be alive.
So, Mark, again, powerful words there from the judge. Did you think the manslaughter charge was appropriate?
Well, there has to be some reduction in order to get a defendant to plead guilty, typically. I've seen a lot of defendants express some level of remorse. I wouldn't say this was the greatest amount of remorse, but it was some genuine remorse. When someone says, I'm ready to give whatever sentence you give me, that's either someone who's a little bit contrite or has been well coached by their lawyer, or both, because judges don't typically hear that. They don't typically hear someone say, whatever you give me, I'm going to serve. That to me is some level of contrition. Having said that, do I think this woman has had some great turnaround and seeing the truth and the light? It doesn't seem that way. It seems like she did this as a part of a way to get a shorter prison sentence. But the other ones who insisted on the trial, and one of whom, Juan Davis, said he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is such an understatement, strikes me as they're not repentant at all.
Let me ask you about this. So prosecutors said that Treadway had called Davis, and after she called him, she moved her car out of the driveway of the duplex. There's been speculation that she knew there could be gunfire, that she didn't want her car to get damaged. And in fact, during closing arguments, the prosecutor apparently told the jury, if she's so innocent, how on earth is her car way the hell down here before shots are ever fired at her driveway? I thought that was a curious point.
Yeah, she has this dispute, which is probably related to this previous connection between them and this willingness to be a witness against her boyfriend. She is calling for violence to be brought. Why else do you call this man other than to vanquish some witness who might be testifying?
She most definitely made that phone call, most definitely moved her car out of the way. She most definitely knew what was going on. However, she was the first one to snitch. That's why she got that cushion time compared to the rest of them. Let's go.
Against him later. So she calls Juan Davis not to be a moral support in some verbal argument. She's calling him to bring violence, and he brings a 16-year-old and a 29-year-old to the fight with semi-automatic weapons, one a pistol, one an AR, AK style weapon, and now we have a dead toddler and we have a man injured.
Let's talk about 18-year-old Jaden Sorensen, who, as you mentioned, he was 16 when this happened. He was the youngest defendant involved. His actions, though, just as significant, because at the time of the shooting, even though he was 16 years old, he was charged as an adult. He entered a guilty plea in January to a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of felonious assault, 1 count of improperly handling firearms in a motor vehicle. He testified against his alleged co-conspirators in their trials and said he never actually fired any shots because his gun malfunctioned. Now, attorneys for Davis and Parker, they attacked Sorensen's credibility as part of their defenses, saying that Sorensen...
What he was shooting, a high point? I wonder how much time they give him. Let's go. He still got some big boy charges, and they still charge him as an adult. But he did rat/snitch as well. So let's see what happens.
Was lying Mark, your thoughts on this?
Boy, a 16-year-old with a semi-automatic rifle trying to shoot to kill somebody has all the intent for these crimes, whether or not the gun misfires, certainly on the attempt charges, right?
So no, it wasn't a high point. Let's go.
And the improper handling of the firearm, which is the least of his problems. Yes, he testified and he tried to help himself, but every one of these people was a criminal actor. Is it more heartbreaking that it was a 16-year-old whose brain isn't fully formed yet, and you expect the older people, the 29-year-old and Juan Davis, who was, I think, 34 or 33 at the time, do you expect them to be the adults? Yes, you do. He was charged as an adult. He was sentenced as an adult. He's going to do time now as an adult.
Let's talk about his sentencing, because before he was sentenced, he expressed or seemingly expressed remorse for his actions, acknowledging his guilt. He spoke about becoming a father while in custody, a life-changing experience that led him to reflect deeply on his mistakes. I mean, again, his mistakes of killing a young boy.
So I pray asking God for my victims for forgiveness. I pray asking God for knowledge, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of life. I feel like he answered my prayer shortly after incarcerated. I found out that I had a baby girl. Now I see everything more clearly in a different light. The thought of somebody hurting my baby girl will crush my world, so I feel for the family.
Now, Judge Gallagher expressed hope that Sorensen could change, but cautioned him that the road to redemption would be difficult. And Sorensen was sentenced to 11 to 15 years in prison. Mark, what do you make of that sentence?
Yeah, Sorensen says he has a young daughter, and that brought about a change of heart.
I don't like that sentencing. I don't think it was enough time, but however, I'm not the court system. I do get he was very young, and hopefully we'll be watching another video on this when he get out, because he do have a chance at life.
That is possible, and all of us who've had kids know that it does change your outlook. So I do not want to diminish the possibility that he could find some redemption, some repentance. Having said that, because of these actions, that daughter of his will now be in her 20s, I suppose, or almost in her 20s, perhaps having children of her own by the time he gets out. Here's hoping that every one of these criminals will come to a place where they can understand the damage they did. But the system of justice has got to mete out punishment. I was proud to see Judge Gallagher and the sentences she gave.
And before that sentencing was finalized, Luis's family, as you mentioned, had the opportunity to speak in court. His father was visibly devastated, held up, as you mentioned, pictures of his son, shared the deep emotional toll that this loss has had on this entire family.
It's hard to talk. I want to. Like I said, it's been very hard for me. But like I said, all this has been hard and stressful. I haven't been myself. I lost my first child.
And the young boy's grandmother, fighting back tears, described her grandson as a hero.
Good morning, Mr. Rivera. What are you holding?
My hero. I have other grandkids, but he was very special. They took my heart, and I want justice for this.
Luis's grandfather also spoke through his very visible pain, expressing the deep emptiness left by his grandson's death.
I miss my grandson. And I used to see this on the news. Never thought it was going to happen to me or my family. And it did. And now, when I see this type of cases on the news, I cry.
Obviously, these are victim impact statements. I think they're incredibly important to hear. What did you make of them, and what impact do they have on the actual sentencing?
Every time I'm in court and I hear victims speak, my throat gets dry, because this is the real human impact of the crime. Up until then, it's been papers and witnesses. But when you hear that impact, that's when it gets real for me. Typically, judges will come out to the bench with a very good idea of what they want to do. In fact, the paperwork is so detailed that the judge will have often prepared it ahead of time. But sometimes the voice of a victim can so move a judge so as to change the punishment of the case. We won't know ever if that happened here, but if there was ever a set of victims who could speak from the heart about the loss of this child, it was this family.
It's important to hear. Look, the law did its part. It measured out some semblance of justice, but it's not going to bring this 3-year-old boy back. This family is not going to get this child back. It is a senseless act of violence. It is a tragedy. We wish this never happened. And just, if there was one decision, if one person just did something different that day, this wouldn't have happened. Mark, thanks so much for coming on. Great seeing you, and appreciate your insight and expertise as always.
Always good to be with you. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.
She had a duty.
So 4 people convicted. Girl called guy, want to shoot out for whatever reason. The bullets have no name on them. What up, what up, what up, what up, bro? Good morning. Good morning, man. Hope we have a good, positive week. Hashtag Motivated Mondays. Let's get to it. So that last case I played was actually in Ohio. Shootout, 3-year-old end up getting unalive. You have to understand, man, bullets don't have any name on them, man. You know, there was some career criminals going on. At least they'll be out the street for the next 40-something years. There was a habitual offenders and just made a bad decision, slide. And a 3-year-old boy, life was impacted by it. It's people crazy, man, in this world today. People are crazy. 3 years old, not even a chance at life. Life gone, family hurt. All because a woman chose to call some of her friends to commit crimes. And we got to do better. Fair use in effect. We're going to play this story here. This one right here is judge locks up mom who unalived her 3 young kids. Once again, it's all about bringing awareness. You see something, say something. And if you see something, do something. But it's going to take everyone involved. And we may never get there. But let's continue to raise the awareness. Thank y'all for stopping in for Old Boy's Corner. Let's go. Fair use is in full effect. Let's go.
To protect her children from anyone or anything who would try to harm them. But unfortunately, in this case, she was that thing.
Rachel Henry is going to prison for murdering her 3 young children.
This is obviously one of the more horrific cases that this court has ever had before it.
I take you to the hearing where Henry's life was spared. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Rachel Henry did the unthinkable. She murdered her 3 adorable little kids. They were all younger than 3. Their names were Zane, Maria, and Catalea. Before I get to Henry's sentencing in Maricopa County, Arizona, I want to look back on the case and how those sweet children were killed by their own mother. It started on January 20th, 2020 in Phoenix. Police were called to the home where Henry was living with her children, their father, and other family members.
Oh my God! Please. Okay.
Hey, make sure traffic part knows where they're at.
Oh my God! I can't. Oh my God!
Move out of the way. Here, I'll get this one.
The women in the body-worn camera video believed that those 3 little kids were napping, but then they realized that the children were actually dead.
Where were they?
They were taking it down right here.
What's up?
Yeah.
Get her out.
Yeah, let's go. Hey, out.
Oh my God. Yeah, the cops are here.
I know. It's okay. It's okay.
Were they on the bed?
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You're okay. You're okay. No, it's okay. Hey, come on, come here.
Okay,
Come here. We're gonna talk out here.
Hey, are there any pain medications in the house? Any pills?
Just the medicine that she has. All the medicine she has to use, I guess. Right here in the drawer. Right here in the drawer.
Okay. Hey, I know. Let's go outside. I need to there. Keep on going back inside. Yeah. Hey, come here. It's okay. It's okay. Come on. Go outside. Mike, control those 2. Everyone monitor this channel. We go time of death on all 3. 1929.
This was a horrific scene. These 3 little kids were dead. It defies the laws of nature, and there was no apparent reason for their deaths. The family members were understandably beside themselves. Rachel Henry, the mother of those babies, seemed a little bit upset, but not like the others at the home.
No.
And she hollering no for it, and she actually the one that done it. And woman, you don't sit your down somewhere. Let's go.
No.
Is there a chair or something she can sit in? Maybe that one.
No.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Did you want to sit down?
Oh my God.
Can I get your name, ma'am?
Rachel Henry.
Rachel Henry? Okay.
My baby.
What is your date of birth, Rachel?
We went to Wednesday to try and because they were sick. And we were trying to get an appointment, and I told her so many times, please take me to the doctor. And she wouldn't. And I've been giving them some ibuprofen because they're sick and they have brain fever. They're not feeling good. The baby's teething and they have fevers and everything. And she still wouldn't take them to the doctor. She never wanted to take me to the doctor. And I just, oh my God.
Good morning, Cynthia. Happy Monday.
Donuts and candy and everything. He never wanted to eat. And I said I needed to go to the doctor, and no one ever wanted to take him to the doctor. And she said she couldn't get off work, and I don't have a vehicle, I don't have a job, and I can't.
What does any of this have anything to do with 3 of your kids being unalived by you? Doctors, medicine, like, what are you saying, woman?
I couldn't help. They just put him in for a nap, and then I thought they were sleeping. No.
I need you to stay out here with me. Okay?
No.
Yep, I need you to stay. Okay? Just have a seat for me.
This is a law and crime legal alert. Recent allegations against the multi-billion-dollar video game industry claim that video games are engineered for addiction. The claims include making sense of the magical hold that video games seem to have over people where they can't put the controller down. Every win triggers a hit of dopamine that creates a cycle of compulsion, which disrupts daily life and harms mental health. Our legal sponsors are taking on this industry that has, at many times, in some people's opinion, put profit over safety. They're working to potentially get compensation for all of those impacted. If you or a loved one have suffered physical or mental health issues because of video games, visit vgclaims.com/law and crime to answer less than 10 questions and check your eligibility to file a claim. Rachel Henry acts like her children were ill and blames their father for not wanting to take them to the doctor.
She kept telling me to clean the house. Everyone wanted me to clean the house. I was cleaning the house. I did the laundry. I was cleaning it. I thought they were sleeping. They fell asleep watching a movie. And Dad came home and he was laying on the couch. And I told him to watch him.
Oh, sorry.
I told him to watch him. He's been laying on the couch.
This is
He's been laying on the couch.
Mom, Rachel Henry.
He's been laying on the couch since he got home. And then we went to go get a pizza. That's what I thought. And then I went to check on him. He's there again.
Take her to jail. Take her to jail now.
No.
No, I need to stay right.
I told him to check on them. I told him to check on them. Please go. And my babies.
I need to stay out here with me. I know you want to go in there, man, but I can't let you back in there.
You don't deserve to cry.
Sit out here with me. Okay.
I was gonna take him to work today because it's a holiday. We didn't know it was a holiday. I was gonna get my driver's license. I was gonna get a job. And I can get my own place and everything, and my babies would be fine. We wanted to go take the babies to daycare. And I understand we could never handle the babies, but I mean, nobody would. I mean, I just thought they were sleeping. I just thought they were sleeping. Yeah, I know. I already know. Mm-mm. Why me? Why me?
What you mean, why you? You done it.
Yes, right. Oh, my baby. She kept going, put him to sleep, put him to sleep, put him to sleep, put him to sleep, put him to sleep. What the fuck? I didn't want to let them play. I was going to take him out and play. They kept wanting me to put him to sleep. And they were sick, and I never gave them any medicine or anything, and I just thought they were sleeping. No. No.
Did you put him down for a nap?
It's like 5:30. What time is it now?
It's about 8 o'clock.
They're up all night most of the time. You don't get them to go to sleep till like 3.
Rachel Henry sounded like a grieving mother, possibly in shock, and maybe she was grieving. But what happened to those precious children was her doing. The great aunt of the father's children recalled finding those children.
When we got back, Pedro said, "Tia, come here." He was hysterical. He said, "I checked on the kids why they were still asleep. Why were they still sleeping at this time? I was going to wake them up because they'll be up all night." He said, "Tia," and that's all, and everything. Just I don't know anything after that. I just Okay. I started freaking out. I was like, what? And I grabbed the baby. And then I saw the other kids too. It's all three of them. It's my mom. Like, how am I going to tell her this? Just have her call you back. Mama. Just have her call you back. Mama. Or you'll call her back. Mama. Mama, the babies are dead. No. Don't say that. You don't know that. Do not say that. Okay? Don't say that. You don't know that. We don't know that. All right? Mama, I got to get off the phone, okay? I will call you in a little while. Mama, all three of them. I will call you in a little while. Don't say that. Don't say that. Mama, they might be okay. They're we don't know. We don't know. Mama, okay? Mama, no. Just don't think that right now.
The great aunt and the officer aren't talking long when she makes this statement.
And I told Pedro, I said, Pedro, the girl is weird. I'm gonna break up the arm. We're gonna come home one day and find her drowning the kids in the tub.
Wow. Then police talk with Rachel Henry.
I came out here and I couldn't get a job because I lost my driver's license and I couldn't find it at all. And all I wanted to do was get a job, and I kept trying, and I'm trying to get my life, turn my life around, get my act right, and I still am, and I'm definitely going to now, in every possible way.
Henry then reveals that she has a drug problem.
I had a problem, but I don't want to do it anymore, and just I even asked the Lord for forgiveness because I want to forget my past and I want a better future. I want to forgive myself. I want to move on, move forward. I want to go back to school and just I want to do that anyway, and it just so I just asking the Lord for forgiveness so I can move on and start over and start fresh.
And this woman asking forgiveness and talking about starting over. She just unalived her 3 kids. Yeah. Let's see what kind of forgiveness that judge give you. Let's go.
Forgive myself because I have a problem. And that's the first step to recovery is admitting that I have a problem. But
what was your addiction?
First it was weed, and then it was methamphetamine, and then I stopped, and I'm not doing it anymore because I don't want to be like that no more ever again, ever. And I don't know. I want to be a better person, and I want to go back to school. I want to get a better job. I want better opportunities in life, and I never asked for any of the problems that I had because I was crazy and stupid.
So Rachel Henry's 3 children are in the house. They're dead. And she's talking about wanting a better job and better opportunities and wanting to go back to school. The conversation continues.
I want a better life.
I hope you get that someday.
Like, this ain't about you anymore. Like, you took your kid's life. It's over with for you.
If given the chance, I can actually make that happen. And definitely. Without a doubt. Because, I'm going to do everything I can in order to do a better life.
Later on, Rachel Henry confesses to murdering Zane, Maria, and Catalea. An affidavit says that Rachel admitted to smothering each child, starting with the 1-year-old female. Rachel was playing with the 1-year-old female and wrestling on top of her. Rachel felt the 1-year-old female's breathing was obstructed, but continued to impede her breath. by placing her hand over the 1-year-old female's mouth. This is a 1-year-old child whose mother is supposed to do whatever she can to protect her. The affidavit says the little girl kicked, trying to stop her mom from killing her. The affidavit continues. Rachel stated the 1-year-old female kicked as she did so, while the 3-year-old male yelled no at her and then attempted to get her to stop. Rachel knew she had killed the 1-year-old female when she stopped kicking Rachel. The 3-year-old male attempted to help the 1-year-old female by punching Rachel to no avail. Rachel also killed Zane and the 7-month-old baby, Catalea. The document continues. Rachel fed the 7-month-old female a bottle in her bedroom until she fell asleep. Rachel sang a song as she placed her hand over her face and impeded her breathing. Rachel sang to the 7-month-old female until she became unconscious and died. Rachel placed all of the children in a position on the living room couch as if they were taking a nap. Rachel Henry was charged with murdering her 3 children, and prosecutors said they would pursue the death penalty against her. What Rachel Henry described was so unbelievably horrifying. It was sickening. No one who thinks rationally can even begin to
just give the kids away. Like, you had other family members there, obviously. Like, say, I can't take this no more. Like, don't take their life.
Understand what she did or why. But Henry then pleaded guilty. In exchange, prosecutors took the death penalty off the table and agreed to a life sentence for Henry. Prosecutor Christopher Salmon spoke as Henry was formally sentenced.
It is probably hard to find somebody who had a role in this case who hasn't been affected by it. I would put obviously the family and friends in there. You read the letter from the victim's aunt talking about how this has affected her, how it's affected the children's father. Obviously, there's friends that have been affected by it. It has had an effect on the police officers and the fire and medical personnel who responded to that scene that day. A lot of the fire personnel thought, because there was a miscommunication, they thought it was a drowning call. They thought they were responding out to a scene to try to save children. And when they got there, found out that there were already 3 dead children inside of the house when they got there. I know the defense noted this in their sentencing memo. I think we noted in ours. Some of the personnel, the first responders, are still in therapy and have been affected by what happened, even though this was 5 years ago. I would add attorneys to that list as somebody who himself responded out to the scene that day.
Salmon's talked about the effect the case has had on all of the people involved.
Why this has had effect on so many people involved in this case isn't really a surprise. It's because the 3 victims, Zane, Maria, and Catalea, are 3 innocent children, all under the age of 4. The defendant is obviously going to prison for the rest of her life because she did the unthinkable in this case, Judge. She had a duty to protect her children from anyone or anything who would try to harm them. But unfortunately, in this case, she was that thing. These 3 children in this case were.
It's too early to get upset with this woman. I feel you, Allison. It's never too early to be upset with her. It's this one pretty bad. You're right. OMG. OMG.
Completely helpless to protect themselves from her, to stop her from what she did to them that day. And all 3 of these murders against Zane, Maria, and Catalea were senseless and, quite frankly, cruel. The defense noted in their sentencing memo that she is going to have to think about this and the effect that it's had for the rest of her life, and I hope she does, because she took the futures of 3 children away from them that day when she did what she did.
Her own children.
In terms of the mitigation, Judge, I'm not going to touch much on it because I think the defense will articulate it better than I will today. I would note that the defendant, Ms. Henry, took responsibility for this. when she admitted to the police what she did that day when they interviewed her. And she's obviously taken responsibility now when she entered into this plea agreement for natural life in prison.
Then it was time for Rachel Henry's attorney, Alan Tavasali, to speak.
First of all, I would like to express my deepest sympathies, condolences for the loss of Zane, Maria, and Catalea. They were so young and their lives were tragically taken from them. I'm personally deeply sorry for their loss, and Rachel is as well. This is a tragedy of monumental proportions, and we are here on this solemn day to give this tragedy a final resolution. Next, I would like to say that we believe the sentence in this case is appropriate. We can never bring back the lives of these 3 children, but Rachel is ready to begin to make up for that, for this unfathomable loss of her children by spending the rest of her life in natural life in prison. It is no small sacrifice, but it is one that she's willingly and sorrowfully accepting as she's entered into the plea agreement.
Tavasali then spoke about what could have contributed to Rachel Henry systematically taking the lives of her 3 young children.
Ms. Warner and I have had this case for 5 years. In that time, we have explored different theories in the case and have concluded there were a variety of factors that led to this tragedy. And had any of these factors not occurred, it may have prevented the deaths of these children. There was strong evidence of postpartum depression, mood disorder, dissociation, severe depression, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and that can explain some of Rachel's mental state at the time.
Get help then. And I know that's easily said than done. However, I'm on these kids' side. There's no excuse for this type of behavior, in my opinion.
Her social history, much of which was provided to the court and is incorporated into the sentencing memo, is also another clear factor. And the complete lack of support that she experienced at the time of the offense is another factor, Judge. However, even though we've investigated this case, it is still kind of a mystery in the sense that we may never know exactly what was going on that day with Rachel. And Rachel can't explain it or remember it herself in any articulable way that can make sense to herself and to everyone else.
Man, shut up.
It's important to note that this is an explanation for these horrible offenses and not an excuse. In no way does it justify what she's done. For those people that have only a fraction of the information about her case in the media, not knowing anything about who she is, and who have tried to capitalize on her case, I would like to say that she will be punished for the rest of her life.
Tavasali then spoke about Rachel Henry's record while she's been incarcerated.
Not only will she be imprisoned and given no chance to get out, but she will live with the knowledge of the gravity of her offenses and must live without the loving presence of her children for the rest of her life. It's also important to note that up to the time of their deaths, Rachel was always described as a loving mother. In the time that we have represented her, she's always been kind and thoughtful, providing us all with origami figures she's made for us, me and my staff. Equally important is the fact that in the 5 years that she's been in the Estrella jail, which can be, it's described as kind of a junior high school on steroids, she hasn't received one ticket for misbehaving, and that's nothing short of a miracle in there, Judge.
What?
Especially with Rachel being diminutive, she's an easy target for bullies and other negative behavior that's directed toward her.
Rachel Henry decided not to speak, and it was time for the judge to.
You talking about that she was worried about being bullied when she's there for bullying, unaliving her 3 young kids? Man, we don't care about how she feels.
Sentence her.
There's not much more this court can add. This is obviously one of the more horrific cases that this court has ever had before it. The court, however, greatly appreciates both memorandums from the parties, especially, frankly, I guess, the defense memorandum that adds context to doesn't explain anything, but adds context to perhaps what leads up to something like this. The court also agrees that the resolution in this matter is a just resolution, and that the state, in dropping the notice of death with the plea agreement, in the decision making, came to a very just decision in doing so. As to counts 1, 2, and 3, then the court finds that probation is not appropriate. The court finds, based on the fact of the dropping of the notice of death, there's only one sentence that may be imposed on each count. It's therefore the judgment of the court as follows. As to count 1, imposition of sentence, defendant is sentenced to a term in the Department of Corrections for a term of natural life to begin today's date.
Rachel Henry hugged her attorneys as deputies prepared to lead her away. She's going to prison for the rest of her life. Her attorneys trying to comfort her. They have a much different relationship with her and likely a different perception of her than the public does. As the judge said, it's a horrific case, and those left behind, the only thing they can do is try to move forward each day, remembering little Zane, Maria, and Catalea. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
So we watched 2 cases, and if you didn't get in the beginning, go back to the beginning. We actually saw 4 adults being charged in unaliving of a 3-year-old boy that sat in the car when his mother called for her friends to come do a drive-by. And the 3-year-old lost his life due to that. Then the one we just watched where there's a mother that unalived 3 of her little kids. They did sentence her with life. And I think, in my opinion, that was the right charge. Once again, it's about awareness. See some, say some, see some, do something. And I know a lot of times, a lot of people don't know how to express their feelings. They didn't go in detail about, what led up to it. They did speak about postpartum depression. And I do know that's a real thing. However, it doesn't get back the lives of these 3 little kids. Victims are victims. So it's a rough one. I'm going to get ready to get up out of here. And once again, I want to thank everybody that came through, that smashed that like button, that dropped down below. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you for checking in with Old Boy and Old Boy's Corner. I'm going to try to be more consistent with content. I'm working on it. Real life happens. So not going to make any promises, but I'm most definitely going to try to be dedicated to actually to continue to bring these stories, continue to be a platform of transparency, a platform of honesty and true conversations. So once again, welcome to Old Boy's Corner. Remember, I'm just a small town country boy with big city dreams. If you didn't like it on your way out, share it, comment, and subscribe. And once again, support the channel whichever way you see fit. Sharing, liking, commenting is for the free 99. And I want to thank everybody that came through. Shout out to you. And remember, can't nobody do you better than you. And the only competition you should have is being a better version of what you were the day before. Let's go. Salute, Carissa. Carissa. Salute. Thank you for coming through. Appreciate it.